Years ago in our church, one of our churches that we pastored, an older gentleman, he was an ex-Nazarene. God bless those Nazarenes. They're sincere. They really are. They're sincere. They are true blue. Love the Nazarenes. Married one. And him and his wife, they came to our, name is Brother Stanley. Brother Stanley, and her name was Maria, I believe. And they came to our church, and every Sunday morning they sat right here on the front pew. Brother Stanley was in his early 80s, and his ministry, he could not sit still. He was just full of energy. He was a great fisherman. He took me fishing a couple times, and one time he took me out to Sprague Lake there in central Washington. I caught a 3.5-pound rainbow. Man, it was awesome. 3.5 pound. You know, he had a certain way to fish. And boy, Pastor, you know, you do it like this, you do it like that kind of thing. Stanley, you know. Okay. But finally, I convinced him to let me use my own rod, because he had all these rods, right? Those kind of guys are like that. So he wanted me to use one of his rods. And I'm thinking, well, I brought my own rod, right? I mean, you've seen it before. I've shared it with you. I want to use my own rod. So you put on whatever you think I need to catch the fish, and I'll use my own rod, and we'll troll. And I caught a 3.5 pounder. It was awesome. Anyway, Brother Stanley's ministry, him and his wife, every Sunday morning, when the evangels, remember the evangels, would be handed out, and whatever extra evangels were left over, him and his wife that week would go to nursing homes. And he would take those evangels and he'd sit by the bedside of those who were dying, or those who were extremely sick or ill, or just people who would ever listen to him for company. And Brother Stanley and his wife, they would read those evangel stories to all those people. He would come back week after week with tears, literally. And I'm not joking, right? I mean, I'm not joking. This man, you know, he's a Nazarene. And with tears, this 81, 82-year-old brother and his wife. And they'd share stories of salvation. They'd share stories of how people were changed and how much the people in the nursing home appreciated. He couldn't wait. And he sat right here. And the really cool thing about it was he was so close to when I was preaching that every time I spit on him, he was more anointed. He never shouted out in tongues, but he was anointed man. Seriously. He sat right here, him and his wife. I had a couple brothers that attended the church that we pastored. Came to me one day and said, Pastor, the principal of this local school that we taught us when we were in high school, and now it's the principal of this local junior high, he wants to start a new program. It was one of the poorest junior highs in all of Spokane. He said he wants to start a program called a school within a school, and what that basically means is you take those kids that are failing, flunking and failing, and who are extremely poor, and you line them up with like male buddies, partners, you know, counselor, tutor type guys. And he's starting this new program, and they call it School Within a School. And Pastor, you know, I really think that you'd be awesome, we'd be awesome, we're going to get involved. He's asking us, and so we're going to get involved. And so long story short, I went to see him, and so I got hooked up with some kids, and then shortly thereafter I was coaching football at University High School, and they needed an 8th grade football coach, so he called me and said, I want you to be our 8th grade football coach. And so for the next couple of years, all during the year, when it wasn't season, and I went out and I earned $6,000 for brand new weightlifting equipment and football equipment because they didn't have anything. So I went to different organizations and businesses in the area, and our church contributed some money, and so I bought him brand new equipment, and so every day after school, 2 days during the week we'd lift weights, and 2 days during the week we'd have study hall. And you couldn't lift weights if you didn't come to study hall. And so I had anywhere between 15 and 30 kids every night, either working out or in study hall. And we were taking kids who were making F's and D's and turning them into A's and B's. Watching young lives literally be transformed and changed. Taking losers that never won anything ever before and turning them into champions. One of the churches that we pastored had a brother there by the name of Bill. Bill's an ex-Catholic. God bless the Catholics, but once they really get saved, man, they get turned on for the Lord. And I know he's going to watch this. But there is no purgatory, Bill, so cut that out. And what Bill's been doing for years and years, he takes kind of the down and outer teenage boys in the area. And Bill has a firewood ministry. And so he goes out and, with permission of the government, he goes out on lands, private lands and public lands, and trees that are dead and dying and down, and he cuts them, he clears the land. And for years he's been taking these teenage boys and ministering to them and teaching them how to work, teaching them how to use an electric saw, and teaching them how to split wood, and then teaching them how to take that wood to a person who can't afford the firewood and sometimes can't afford the electricity or the power for their homes in the wintertime. And so Bill's been doing this for years, literally transforming young men's lives. Blessing them financially, blessing them spiritually. Young men getting saved. Young men finding a role model in Bill and him ministering to them and sending some of them off into the military and some being healed, literally physical bodies. They can't do certain things, and through ministry and through work and through role modeling, through being there with them, young people literally being healed in their lives. Bill does this on a regular basis. He's getting pretty old. I'm not sure how long he can continue on with that ministry. But let me tell you something, folks. He's investing into the kingdom of God. Bill and Stanley, servants of all, in last place. I got to tell you something. I don't know that I should tell you this, but sometimes when you say that, you probably should, but I think it's okay. Folks, I used to sit in deacon meetings, and I had other super righteous, self-righteous deacons who would make fun of Bill and his ministry, who would put down Bill and the work that he did. And I sat in those meetings, and I shamed him for it. And I wasn't there very long. I'm not going to stick around that garbage. I'm not going to stick around with it. And the reason they shamed him was because they were put to shame. Because they were high-minded and haughty and egotistical and proudful, and thought that they were worth a whole lot more than what they were worth, and invested very little into the kingdom of God, and thought that they should receive everything and invested very little, didn't give anything. And here's Bill, who was chosen to be first, last, who was chosen to be first servant of all, and these super righteous men criticized him. Many of them are even now gone. But Bill is still around in ministry. God bless you, Bill. We love you. Our son coaches a football team in Coeur d'Alene. He recruited 2 young men that work with their young people's group there in the church to help him coach. Every week they get together and they pray. And they ask the Lord that they would have impact upon these young boys' lives. The other day, this 5th grade boy who's basically homeless showed up to play on the team. Somebody knew him and had paid for his dues to play the sport, had paid for that. He'd practiced a day or so, and so one day our son talked to him about getting cleats, shoes, and so forth. He didn't even know what he was talking about. He doesn't have a mom. They're not sure what his dad does or where he's at or what's going on. Basically a homeless 5th grader, responsible for himself. So my son went and bought him a brand new pair of Under Armour shoes, football shoes, and when he took him to him and showed him to practice, the kid about, you can imagine, those are for me? Just boomed, just blossom, just shine. But he didn't want to put them on because the socks that he was wearing inside his shoes hadn't been washed in weeks. Our son had him take his shoes off, and the smell was, you can imagine, was just horrendous. So he didn't want to put his shoes on, his new football shoes on those socks, because the socks were so old. And so now our son basically has to buy him all brand new stuff. Brand new socks, brand new shoes. Has to buy his equipment that he can wear. And oh, what a blessing to do that.
Yes.
What a blessing to be servant of all. What a blessing to be chosen last. Chosen to be last. What an incredible blessing to be chosen, to be servant of all. To be chosen first. I don't want to be chosen second or third or fourth. I want to be chosen first to be servant of all. I want to be chosen first to be last in the kingdom of God. This young 5th grade boy, his life would be changed, literally changed. I want to look back now, step back into history just for a moment. Anybody ever heard of Clara Barton? Clara Barton? No, I wouldn't imagine that you should. Clara Barton, when she was 11 years old, back in 1876, I believe it was, Massachusetts, New York area, her 11-year-old brother fell off the roof of their barn trying to do some work and fell off and was seriously injured. Clara Barton, at the age of 11, she was 11 years old. Her brother was younger than her. She was 11 years old. And the legend says that for the next 2 years, Clara Barton sat in her brother's bedroom next to his side and never left his side except for just a half an hour during the day for 2 solid years. When the Civil War broke out, history says that, I can't remember the name of the battle right now, that's not important, but it was a certain day where it was the bloodiest day of the whole Civil War battle. Thousands and thousands of young men were being killed on the battlefield. And history says that while because no women really did those things at that time, while male nurses were fleeing for their lives while shells and bombs were exploding, cannon balls were exploding all around, males were running for cover. Clara Barton stood right there in the middle of the battle and ministered to all the wounded of the North and to all the prisoners of the South, and took all that upon her. Clara Barton is the person who started the American Red Cross. The American Red Cross was began by Clara Barton. And folks, as I begin to close and wind this down, I want to read to you her pledge. And as I study history, and as I study Abraham Lincoln, as I study great heroes, great men and women of history, most of the time they talk about the cause, or they talk about, things. They talk about overcoming, the injustices. They talk about a lot of things. But when you come to Clara Barton, here's her pledge. And her pledge stands out more than any other pledges or any other words that I have really researched, especially in American hero histories. And she says, I pledge before God all that I have. I pledge before God all that I am. I pledge before God all that I can and all that I hope to be, to the cause of justice and mercy and patriotism, my country and my God. I pledge before God all that I have, all that I am, all that I can, and all that I hope to be, to the cause of justice and mercy and patriotism, my country and my God. Clara Barton, who started the American Red Cross.